Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today we're doing a first look deep dive for the Week 7 main slates here on DraftKings, as well as a Week 6 lineup recap of the Millie Maker winning lineup. So let's get right into it. So jumping on over here to my lineup, Drake May obviously was really good. Devon Achane, 5% owned. He had a fantastic game there. Javonte Williams was a huge letdown there. Super chalky. Did not do well. Same thing with Stephon Diggs. Chalky. It just didn't have that game. Obviously, it's, Drake May. Really good game. Would have hoped it was Stephon Diggs. Unfortunately, it was just deep bombs to Pop Douglas as well as Kayshon Boutte, who were the ones that popped up with Drake May there. Not much you can do about that. Lad McConkey, as I said, if Quentin Johnson was ruled out, he looked really, really good. Chris Olave was a catch away from having that 100-yard bonus and going pretty much for his best game of the season. 20-plus fantasy points there was super, super close. He dropped a touchdown pass. That was super frustrating. K. Dotton had a good game there. Josh Jacobs, obviously, against Cincinnati looked fantastic. And then the Browns defense was actually pretty disappointing there. They could not get any sort of stat against Aaron Rodgers. So it was very easy to cash last week, with all the core plays that I had. And unfortunately, just, I had too many snowflakes there to make any sort of decent money. But I'll always take cashing. Cashing is winning, especially in the big Millie Maker. So looking to continue on another good week here into Week 7. In terms of the Millie Maker winning lineup, as I keep, kind of saying to you guys in these breakdowns, a lot of people, when they see these breakdowns or core play videos, everyone's always like, I see comments on other people's channels where they're like, oh, all you're doing is, picking the super chalk, or you're only, talking about the super chalk plays. Like, yeah, as we've seen so far this season, through the first 6 weeks, you can play 6, 7 out of the 9 possible, slots, just massive chalk, and just get different with two players. That's all it's really taken the past 2-3 weeks, is just getting different with two players and just going chalk with the rest. As you can see here, Drake May was, I think he was the highest owned quarterback on the slate last week. He obviously had a really good game there. Josh Jacobs, 29% owned, one of the highest owned running backs. He was a super chalk. Same thing with Kyron Williams. Same thing with JSN. The first 4 guys in the lineup, massive chalk there. Obviously, he got a little bit different with George Pickens. He wasn't technically chalk, but he was one of the best wide receiver plays just in terms of that matchup against Carolina. So that made sense there. That wasn't out of the norm. Kayshon Boutte was really the only kind of non-chalk there, as well as Michael Mayer. Kayshon Boutte, obviously that was more so just a dart throw, and it worked out. Usually a lot of those times it doesn't, but hey, he played Drake May. He went to one of his pass receivers and it ended up working out there. Michael Mayer, I talked about how I really liked him with no Brock Bowers. In that spot against Tennessee, he did really, really well. And then obviously Rico Dotto, massive chalk. Colts D was chalk. So it's one of those things, as you can see, 7 out of the 9 players are massive chalk. Kayshon Boutte, Michael Mayer were the only two ones he got different with. Michael Mayer was a great play there just because there's no Brock Bowers. He's a really talented tight end. We just really haven't seen it yet so far in his career. This year, there was kind of inklings that it might happen. As we saw in week 1, he outsnapped Brock Bowers. And so, yeah, that kind of made sense there. The only, dart throw was Kayshon Boutte. But, yeah, as you can see, $1 million right there. Second place, he had a Joe Flacco in there at 4,000. Kamani Vidal, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren. So he had, a double Indiana stack there. Rico Dotto, third place, Bryce Young. So as you can see, you can get away with going to these really cheap quarterbacks if they go for 20, maybe a little bit more than 20, and hope that the top quarterbacks don't go off for massive games. I don't know if that'll happen this week. There's a lot of good spend ups. I just don't know if there's a need to get down to those cheap quarterbacks, but as we say, they're always in play. If they can go out there and get you close to 20 fantasy points, you're really set up for success because you can spend that money in all the other positions. So heading on over here to the quarterback position, obviously on the slates, we have 2 clear spend ups in really, really good spots. We have Patrick Mahomes playing at MVP level. He gets Rashee Rice back here. And this season for Patrick Mahomes has been an outlier, but it's been a good outlier in terms of his rushing upside. As you can see, he is rushing the ball a ton, especially the past 2 games there. 60 rushing yards, 32, a touchdown in both. Gets Rashee Rice back. It sucks to say because the Chiefs are annoying to watch, even though I do like Patrick Mahomes and some of the other players. It's just, it's just frustrating, kind of the stuff they get in terms of the rest, but we'll leave that for a different day in terms of discussion. But yeah, it seems like the Chiefs are back. Their defense is good. Their offense has really been clicking. They get Rashee Rice back. Unfortunately, they are back, which is annoying to everyone else in the NFL as well as me. So Mahomes looks like a fantastic spin up here against the Raiders. Jaden Daniels, I would say it was more so a letdown game there offensively for him in the Commanders that last game, and he still had a decent stat line, 3 touchdowns, 52 rushing yards, 23 fantasy points there. So he gets a fantastic matchup here against Dallas. Going to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks, but for good reason. Moving on down here, Jalen Hurts, I think it's going to be a very, very solid tournament play. He is someone that, we just know all the media news around the Eagles and just Jalen Hurts. And it's one of those things, like, he's been playing bad. This offense has not been the best, and he's still putting up 21 fantasy points per game. So if he's going to be flying under the radar, obviously it's not a great matchup there at Minnesota against that defense, but still, we know he has that ability to go out there, get a red zone touchdown, get some rushing yards. So if he's going to be coming in at sub, 8% ownership, I think he's a really, really interesting tournament play. Dak Prescott against Washington looks like a really strong play once again. Price really isn't moving, and he's going out there to throw the ball a ton. They possibly might have CD Lamb back, so that makes Dak look even better. 6,500, he looks like another great spin-up play. I'll touch on Herbert. If there's no Quentin Johnson, Herbert once again looks really easy to kind of pick and stack him with Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey. Obviously, if Quentin Johnson is back, Justin Herbert still looks like a really solid play. Yeah, I'll mention Drake May. He's been playing fantastic. I wouldn't mind going back to him and Stephon Diggs as a kind of a skinny stack. I think a lot of people will be off of that just due to the easy spin ups we can get to in terms of Hurts, Daniels, Mahomes, and Dak Prescott. Moving on down a little bit more here, I will mention Caleb Williams. He'll be pretty chalky because he gets a great matchup here against the Saints. Solid game there last night. Only 1 touchdown pass. Didn't really have too many rushing yards, but he did have a rushing touchdown. But great matchup against the Saints. He has rushing upside. He's looked a lot better passing the ball this year, so he looks really, really good there at 5,800. I know people are going to be disgusted by this, but you had to consider playing Justin Fields just because he can go out there. We haven't seen it yet this season, but he can go out there and go for 100+ yards rushing, and he gets the Carolina Panthers. They're playing at home in New York. Obviously, they're most likely going to be down Garrett Wilson, but you could just go run him out there with Breece Hall or maybe even Mason Taylor at the tight end position and feel solid about it. Obviously, I would only do it if you're running like 50, 150 lineups. I wouldn't do it if you're only playing a few, but we just know the rushing upside with him, 5,700, going against Carolina, so you do have to consider him. I think Bo Nix looks pretty solid there against the Giants. And then moving on down a little bit more, the other guy I do want to mention is going to be, where is he? Dylan Gabriel, 4,400 as I mentioned. And as I kind of showed you guys in the Millie Maker, you can definitely get away with going to a cheap quarterback because it allows you to pay up for those other positions. Dylan Gabriel, the reason I want to call him out, even though he has not been good, the offense for the Browns has been really, really bad. He threw it 52 times that last game against Pittsburgh. So they're most likely going to be down. He's most likely going to throw it 35 times, if not more. And it's one of those things, he can get close to 20 fantasy points. Like, obviously, not the best talent, but still, there's a chance and there's a path that he can definitely get there. And he's playing against Miami. So that's a good matchup we want to take advantage of. Dylan Gabriel is definitely in play for this Week 7 slate. Moving on to the running back situation. In terms of running back, the two easy kind of click, spin up plays would be Jonathan Taylor at 8,800, as well as Josh Jacobs there against Arizona. It makes sense. They're the two safest and easiest to get to. So if you want to go that route, you can. In terms of Devon Achane, once again, I think he's going to come in probably a little bit higher ownership, but he does not get the best matchup there against Cleveland at Cleveland. So I don't know if I'm going to chase there. His price did come up. I think he just makes for more so an interesting tournament leverage spot off of Jonathan Taylor and Jacobs, who should be really, really chalky. I absolutely love Saquon here. Kind of, as we said, with all the Eagles players, it just has not been good this season for them offensively. As you can see, he had his worst offensive game probably in the past 2 years. I'm going to go ahead and just say that. I think so. Not looking at the box scores from last year, but I don't know if he's ever had a game this bad in the past 2 years. And that's just kind of speaking to how bad the Eagles have been offensively, especially run blocking. So not the best matchup. They're in shambles, but still it's Saquon Barkley. All it takes is one play for him to kind of break free and kind of blow up the slate there and just absolutely nuke the slate. So 7,700, he's probably going to be my favorite running back play for tournaments. Moving on down a little bit more, I want to bring up Rico Dowdle. I mean, it's just hard to deny the just workhorse that he has been the past 2 weeks. The price has come up $1,000. They're playing the Jets in New York. I don't necessarily love the matchup. Chuba might be back. So I think he's going from a really, really good play, someone you lock into a strong play. I don't know if I'll get there yet, but we'll see. Just obviously he's just had a massive workload there, so you have to mention him. I think Javonte Williams is in a really, really good spot here, a really nice bounce back. Massive letdown game there. I think a lot of the ownership will jump off, but he gets a fantastic matchup here against the Washington Commanders, who, if you guys watched that game last night for the Bears, DeAndre Swift had a really, really strong game against them. They were running the ball really, really well against that defense, and so I really like the setup here for Javonte Williams going against that Commanders defense. Still seeing a massive workload there. Going to see close to 20 touches, if not more, so absolutely love Javonte there. Moving on down a little bit more, I will mention, as I said, Breece Hall, good spot here, especially with most likely no Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall should see hopefully some work in the passing game there. Moving on down a little bit more, Bill looks like the firm running back one. The only issue with Bill is he doesn't have that passing upside. They just haven't flashed it with him yet. As you can see, he only had one target yesterday in the game. They were down pretty much the whole game. Did lead at points, but still, they just don't utilize him in the passing game, which is just the only downside to him at 6,100. Otherwise, he gets a great matchup against Dallas, a defense we want to take advantage of. As we saw last week, Rico Dowdle almost put up 200 rushing yards in back-to-back games. But yeah, it's a good matchup. It's just you wish he had that pass catching upside. Quinton Judkins looks really, really strong here against Miami. Another one of those defenses you want to target. He's a workhorse. Didn't see the best production, but I think Pittsburgh's finally coming back to that legit defense, one of the best defenses in the league. They got a bunch of people back last week, so tough matchup, especially when your team's just really bad offensively. But we know he's going to go out there and see 15 to 20 touches, if not more. Amazing spot here against Miami. He looks like one of the better running back plays of the slate. Moving on down a little bit more, DeAndre Swift, as I mentioned, hit a massive game there against the Commanders. It's not chasing here if you want to go back to him, just because he's the only running back option there for the Bears. Kyle Monangai did see a little bit more run than usual, but I'm not too worried about it. 5,700 for a player that's going to be heavily involved in the passing game, as well as he can get those rushing attempts, as you can see, kind of a lock for about 14 rushing attempts per game. So it's just the workload there. It doesn't really have any competition. Cheap price tag, good matchup. You're not chasing. It's just another really solid spot for DeAndre Swift. Moving on down a little bit more, I do want to call out Kamani Vidal. We got the news that Hassan Haskins was going to be that running back, at least the starting running back for the Chargers, and it ended up being the Kamani Vidal game. He just flashed more upside, looked a lot better. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of the main running back there for the Chargers. So I just wanted to call that out, and that's really it for the running back situation there. Moving on over to the wide receivers. A lot to talk about for these wide receivers for this slate tomorrow. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, I think, is a solid spin up. It really comes down to if it's Carson Wentz throwing the ball or J.J. McCarthy. If it's Carson Wentz, I think he looks like a good spin up. If it's J.J., more so just a tournament play for me, just because it's really hard to trust J.J. right now. He just has not looked good in terms of getting his receivers involved. CeeDee Lamb might be back. I saw a quote today that Jerry Jones said a thumbs up in terms of those guys coming back. So it looks like he could probably be good to go. If that's the case, he looks like a great play there against Washington. Would lock him in. You'd probably have no restrictions. If for some reason he doesn't play, obviously George Pickens once again would look like a really, really good play. Rome Odunze looks great right now, 6,600 at the Saints. There is a possibility that DJ Moore isn't going to be out. He stayed overnight to go to the hospital. It looks like he maybe hurt his hip or his back or something. But yeah, there's a chance he doesn't play. If that's the case, Rome Odunze looks absolutely fantastic there. Moving on down a little bit more, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver one there for the Dolphins. Back-to-back weeks of 8+ targets. Once again, he was a catch away from going for that 100-yard bonus, so he probably would have gone for 20+ fantasy points once again. Just barely missed that. But 6,300, great price tag for wide receiver one. Cleveland, a pass funnel defense, so he looks really, really strong there. I don't mind running back with Debo. A very disappointing letdown game there last night against the Bears, but as we know, he's going to be the main option there and should be heavily involved. 6,200 is a great price tag there. Moving on down, the Chargers wide receivers. Ladd, Quentin and Keenan Allen all look really good. Ladd and Keenan look great once again if Quentin Johnson misses. But if he's back, I just really prefer getting to Ladd and Quentin. They look really good. Quentin, obviously, that deep threat there for the Chargers. Courtland Sutton looks like a fantastic option there at 5,900. Coming off of a letdown game there, as we saw in week 2 there, had a letdown game, and he can bounce back for 26. One of those guys who's not going to see like a massive amount of targets. He'll just get that steady workflow of like 8 to 10 targets. You would wish for a few more, but still, he can get there with 8 to 10 targets as we've seen so far this season. So 5,900 against the Giants in that secondary. Really, really like it. They're playing at home as well, so he looks like a really, really strong play. Moving on down a little bit more here, we have Rashee Rice. Looks really, really good here at 5,600. Coming back, he was suspended, so it's not like he's coming off an injury where he needs a couple of games to get right. I think he's going to jump right into it and look really, really good there. Stephon Diggs, as I mentioned, was chalk. Very disappointing game. I think a lot of people are going to jump off of that, especially with all the good plays here for the wide receivers position for this week. So I think I wouldn't be mad going back to him in this spot against the Titans, a defense that is pretty bad. So he looks really, really good there. Moving on down a little bit more, Chris Olave, as I mentioned in kind of my lineup recap, he was 2 yards away from that bonus, so a catch, 1.2 for that catch. Let's say he got 100 on a dot, plus the 3 for the 100-yard bonus, so that's 4 more points. He would have been basically at 20 fantasy points. He also dropped a touchdown pass there, so once again, he looks really, really good there against Chicago. Just seeing a massive, workload in terms of the targets. Very, very steady, consistent. Just really hasn't flashed massive upside yet. Moving on down a little bit more, Jordan Edson, I want to call him out. He's been back the past 2 weeks, 8 targets and 6 targets. He's looked really, really solid for them. So once again, if Carson Wentz is throwing the ball, really like him and Justin Jefferson. If it's JJ, I don't have I don't have good faith in JJ throwing the ball to those players. Another guy I do want to bring up is Matthew Golden, 4,700. The waters get muddied a little bit if Christian Watson is back, but it looks like Golden is slowly becoming more so the go-to guy there for the wide receivers. 6 targets and then 5 targets. Has that massive big playability, so he looks like a really strong tournament option there at 4,700. Moving on down a little bit more, Rashid Shaheed, kind of the same thing. Not going to see a massive target workload, but one of those guys that can break off a massive play and score from anywhere. So he's always a really strong tournament option, especially against the Bears there at 4,500. And one of the last guys I'll mention as of right now is Jerry Jeudy. Saw 13 targets in that game. I think they're going to want to get him more involved. And once again, they're going against Miami, that defense that we do want to target. So 4,400 is very cheap for a wide receiver one that should see hopefully close to 10 targets. I think he makes for a very interesting tournament play. Moving on to the tight ends here. Tight end situation. Obviously, we get the 3 at the top: Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, and Tyler Warren. They all look fantastic. And there's a lot. I think the tight end situation is very interesting this week because there's a lot of different options we get to. Obviously, we have those 3 clear spin-up plays. The kind of secondary tier would be Tucker Kraft here, 4,900. Kelsey and Goddard. I think Tucker Kraft looks great. The only issue is that, as I keep alluding to, for the Packers, you just never know who they're going to get involved in terms of that passing game. They have like 6 different options. You can really only feel safe about Josh Jacobs' production, and then it's just more so a crapshoot in terms of those wide receivers. But he looks really good once again against Arizona. Moving on down a little bit more, I want to call it Evan Ingram. He's been getting a lot more involved recently. As you can see, 7 targets, 6 and 6. So they're looking to get him, involved. He looks really strong. Fannin Jr. looks really, really good there. Saw 10 targets. There's a possibility that Njoku does not play. If that's the case, Fannin Jr. would be one of the better tight end plays of the slate. I will bring up, Michael Mayer once again. If there's no Brock Bowers, he looks strong. Same thing with Mason Taylor there. He should get a heavy workload. I think you just throw that last game out the window there. Overseas against the Jets, overseas against the Denver defense. He should be heavily involved in that game plan moving forward. And the other 2 I'll mention is Taysom Hill. It's going to be inevitable that he has a massive blowout game here soon. Got a rushing touchdown last game. He was only involved, I think, in like 1 play, which is interesting because, as you saw from week 5, he was involved multiple times in a win there. And then obviously in a close game, he just really wasn't that involved versus the Patriots. But as I said, it's going to be inevitable when he has a blow-up game here soon. The classic Taysom Hill game. And the last tight end I'll mention is going to be Gadsden. Where do you go? Right here. It looks like he's probably taken over that tight end one role for the Chargers. Obviously, if Quentin Johnston's back, he's going to become like the fourth option. If Quentin Johnston is out, I think he's definitely viable at 3,300. And then moving on to the defenses for the slates. Obviously, for defenses, it doesn't really matter where you go, but the Chiefs look strong. Same to the Packers and the Broncos. All three look really, really good. In terms of the mid-range defenses, I think the Vikings are definitely viable. In terms of some cheaper ones, I think the Giants are definitely viable. Or not the Giants. Where'd they go? Yeah, I think the Giants are definitely viable. I see in terms of kind of my favorite one right now would be probably spending up for the defenses and going from there. In terms of like potential first look, I like going to, I'd say right now, let's just start with Caleb Williams. I think he looks really, really strong. In terms of running backs, I like Saquon Barkley and I like Javonte Williams there. Moving on to the wide receiver situation, we're going to lock in Rome there with Caleb Williams. Sorry. And then let's bring it back with Shaheed there for like the tournament upside. And then kind of we'll go to the defenses. Just want to lock in our defense. I'm going to go with the Chiefs there for now, kind of spend up. Tight end situation, I do really like Tucker Kraft there against Arizona. Wide receivers, we're kind of left with $5,000 left over. So we kind of go down to that range. As I mentioned, I don't love it, but let's just throw Jerry Jeudy in there right now. 5,700 left over for the flex, and that leaves us with, we can get to DeAndre Swift, so I don't mind that. Getting a good stack there, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, and Rome Odunze, especially if there is no DJ Moore. DeAndre Swift could see a little bit more work in the passing game. You can definitely get to Trey McBride there. I don't mind that. Let's do that. So a little double tight end mini stack there. You got Tucker Kraft. You get Trey McBride on the other side there. That's the first look lineup for you guys. Hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you guys later in the week. Peace.